From April the 30th through to June the 9th, Mars is going to move into his home kingdom of Aries, where he's going to bring drive, willpower, courage, and the power of one's convictions as he hooks up to Lord Pluto in a way we haven't seen since 1778 through to 1797. You heard me right. So this is kind of a new energy for you, for me, for the world that we haven't seen since a time that unfortunately for the world involved a lot of revolutionary wars, and we'll be talking about that. But individually, we're not going to war. We're going to feel this as an energy in quite a positive way of being able to harness one's divine willpower in alliance with your personal will. Those two things can be put together in such a way that you can move mountains and achieve things that you thought were impossible. So we're going to talk about how that looks for you based on your rising sign. This energy of Mars for those 6 weeks, April the 30th through to June the 9th, can be quite potent, quite uplifting for you, and really kind of a feeling like finally you're getting your action plan together and your ideas can take some form as you execute decisions based on what Mars was doing before he got to Aries, which was swimming through that Pisces sea. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac and the whole sign house system. I love the fixed stars and the minor asteroids. If you want that kind of content on the regular, I put out up to 30 videos every month with all signs details. So please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give me a try. The only promotion I have going on right now for the month of May is my May Madness giveaway. I'm giving away readings, classes, courses, my 2024 All Signs video bundle valued at $77. I'm giving some prizes away on the weekly for anyone who subscribed to my Cosmic Moonshine newsletter. And that's because I'm celebrating crossing the 60,000 subscribers mark here on YouTube. So if you're interested in checking me out and getting a weekly forecast newsletter every Saturday and being enrolled in those contests that we'll be having with draws every Sunday, then you do want to get onto the newsletter. In the description box below is the sign up link for my newsletter, as well as many other things, free gifts, courses, and classes. Just look underneath the description box. Scroll down. All right, so first of all, Pluto and Mars. Let's just like mention this. Let's just like realize what this means. You know, Pluto, power, destruction, chaos, death, rebirth, metamorphosis, and renewal and regeneration at a very deep core level in the sign of Aquarius. Don't forget, he hasn't been in Aquarius since the 1700s, and he got back into Aquarius a bit last year, March through June. Then he came back again into Aquarius, most recently in January. He'll be here for 20 years, minus a detour back to Capricorn in the fall, September through November. So we've got a new energy for the world. We've got this Plutonian Aquarian element. Aquarius, we the people. All right, Aquarius, a society, culture, gatherings, tribes, alliances of people in larger groups of belonging. And when Pluto was here last time and on the regular between 1778 and 1797 in a sextile to Mars, the god of war, in the sign of war, Aries, we saw a lot of war that changed societal structures, Aquarius, in profound ways. Now, we all know that the American Revolution happened during that time, the War of Independence, as America broke away from Britain and then later went into a war against both Spain and against France. So the 13 colonies of America signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia in 1776. That's a statement. We're going to be independent. You know, see you later, guys. Goodbye, England. However, it was during the years that followed, 1778 to 97, that what we saw, those ages, those years in which we have Mars connecting to Pluto from war sign Aries into like the Aquarian Pluto, it's really revolutionary. And so there was, in a way, if you really want to consider this for the world, before we get to your signs, this is called mundane astrology, a world war. We always go World War I, World War II, but really the nascent 13 colonies in the eastern half of the Americas, northeastern portion of America, were going to war first with England and then France and then Spain, because Spain and England had colonies all over the Americas, and there was war for territory, territorial grabs, Mars and Aries going to war. Pluto is about the groups of people who are in a collective of some kind and transforming those collectives. So also at the same time, we had the French Revolution. And so we see so much revolutionary energy. There were many different conflicts during this time that restructured different societies and groups of belonging. Now, I am not a historian, but I am always a very curious person. So I went back to, look at some of the wars that happened back then using my handy dandy computer. Not only was the American War of Independence between 1775 and 1783, but also, of course, the French Revolution. It was ongoing during the same time, but we had other things. We had I'm going to give you some ideas of what happened during this time with the Irish Rebellion starting in 1798, still in this Mars-Pluto window of time in that sextile between these two planets. We had the First Anglo Maratha War. We had the Partitions of Poland wars. We had the Russo-Turkish War, 1768 to 1774. We had the French-Indian War. The French were fighting with the Indians between 1754 and 1763. And just because I'm not sure that's true, and then King George's War. Okay. Oh, no, forget King George. He's too far back. And forget the French-Indian War. They're there before the revolutionary energies. I think the French and Indian War wasn't what I think it is, but let's not go there. I'm just going to give you a gist here that we had a huge number of conflicts in the world in the last quarter of the 1700s, and two of those were revolutions. The American Revolution, which became in essence a conflict between the United States and England, Spain, and France. So the United States was fighting on three fronts in essence. So hey guys, let's hope that that doesn't happen. But think about the French Revolution and the American Revolution as emblematic of a desire to revolt against existing power structures and to carve out some freedom or independence from them. And we're going to see that there are going to be, I think I wrote it down, but until 2044, but roughly 10 times in total, that Mars from this year, 2024 to 34, is going to square Pluto. Okay, square Pluto from his perch in his home kingdom of Aries. So between 24 and 34, we get this, between 24 and 44, from 2024 and 2044, we get this every second year. So 10 times in total. This is the first of 10 times. I wish I could say for the world, like, yay us, this is going to be really wonderful. I don't think so. I think it's going to look like a lot of wars going on in the world over the next 20 years. We're in a section of time that started in 2016, according to the Babylonian calendar and astrology, where we're under the domain of Nergal, who is ruling the world for the next, oh my goodness gracious, I think it could be 200 years. And that means we're in a time of increased war. And of course, we've seen that again since 2016. So we can continually say to ourselves, well, may we live in interesting times, which I now understand is a curse, but we are living in interesting times. Now, when this energy is coming up for us this time around, this is Pluto in the second degree of the sign of Aquarius, and that's Mars in the second degree of the sign of Aries. And guess what? We have meanings to those degrees, and let's talk about that. So when Mars first steps into the sign of Aries, he's doing this ingress into Aries, zero Aries, on April the 30th, around 10:30 a.m. in Vancouver, Canada. Adjust for your time zone. But the idea is that he'll be here until June the 9th. And as he steps across the threshold, he is applying, or he's going to create a connection to Pluto 2 degrees away. And so from April 30th until May 3rd, he's approaching or making it happen. And it is exact on May 3rd. And then in the days that follow, let's say 3 or 4 days that follow, we still feel it. So we can say the very first week of May is Pluto, Mars, energy. Simple, simple, simple. But there's something I like that comes into formation right after this, and that is that Mars will begin to flow in a fire trine to Athena, who will be sitting around 4 degrees of Sagittarius. And therefore, Athena is the goddess of victory in war and strategy in war, as well as wisdom and knowledge. And she is in a war sign, by the way, Sagittarius, the archer's bow, okay? The archer's bow. And so, it's kind of sometimes the sky is very literal. Think of the archer's bow as flying weapons, missiles, for example. And, if you want to even go further, Israel is a Libra rising. The third house is Sag. The third house is the neighbors. Well, what neighbor and neighborhood where missiles fly? Well, Hezbollah, Lebanon, right? Maybe the Golan Heights, Syria, missiles flying, right? So in the neighborhood of Israel. So basically, though, what I'm trying to get to, I think it's more positive than not, because Mars, the god of war, is noble in his home kingdom, and he is flowing to the strategy but victory and war goddess in the early degrees of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the rising sign degree, it's rising sign place for the nation of America, for Joe Biden, and for Netanyahu. So hopefully this could look somewhat okay, but we'll be diving more into that in a minute when I show you the sky. The other things that Mars does, so for you individually, for us individually, here's some words of wisdom from Renn Butler's The Archetypal Universe, where I have picked out a few phrases to do with a non-shadow version of Mars and Pluto. Because it's a sextile, the nature of Venus, it can be a lighter touch. And when this is happening, Venus has moved into her home kingdom already of Taurus, where she's also in great strength. And she happens to be in a square to Pluto, but she is in her home kingdom, and she may be trying to do some forceful peace treaties going on here, as she not only squares Pluto in the first week of May, but flows to the goddess of agreements, Juno, and perhaps we could see peace agreements being forced and forged in the first week of May. In your own life, you may find that you get the qualities of drive, passion, courage, determination, renewal, regeneration, and sometimes catharsis in a positive way, where you're able to use this energy very effectively. Now, where it can be in the shadow, and it's hard to say with Mars and Pluto where they're going to show up as a shadow, like Mars-Pluto shooters, Pluto, war with weapons of mass destruction, right? Mars-Pluto has some negative sides to it. So in the downside, it can be ruthlessness and brute force, ruthlessness and brute force. I can speak English. Margaret Thatcher was born with a Mars-Pluto square. She says, a quote of Margaret Thatcher quote is the following: "I am extraordinarily patient, provided I get my own way in the end." And some other great quotes to do with the darker side. Let me find another dark side quote here. I feel an army in my fist, by a guy named Schiller, who has a Mars-Pluto trine. Renn Butler goes on to say that Mars-Pluto is the conqueror archetype. And he goes, those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. And he calls it all out war, blood and fire. You want to say on a positive side, there is a need to, the impulses for self-preservation and transcendence, or the struggle between personal will and divine will, or between transcendence and self-preservation. And on the positive note, to leave you in your own life with this courage of your convictions and your ability to achieve something with power, will, drive, and passion, connected to Pluto, it's really strong. The will to do and the soul to dare. Walter Scott has a trine between Mars and Pluto. The will to do and the soul to dare. You can be courageous, decisive, determined, ambitious during that first week of May in particular, but in general, all through this transit, because as Mars moves through the sign of Aries, he's in a whole sign flow back to Pluto for the entirety of the time. I'm going to bring you over to the charts to show them to you right now, and then we're going to do your all signs. Now, please listen for the following. Your rising sign, based on the time of birth and the latitude of birth, is mostly all about you. Whereas your sun and sun sign stuff is father figures, career and purpose, and your moon, body, home, safety needs, and maybe mother figures, which is why you can listen for all three. But remember, perhaps your rising sign is most accurate. How to get your rising sign, cast your chart in the traditional whole sign house system. Please look in my description box for my free tutorial on how to do that. Now, when Mars is at 2 degrees, He's on the Sabian symbol for Aries 3, a cameo profile of a man in the outline of his country. I repeat, a cameo profile of a man in the outline of his country. Now, in this book, the Sabian symbol book I like to use by Diana E. Roche, called The Sabian Symbols, A Screen of Prophecy, she will outline this as to do with the archetypes of people like Chief Sitting Bull, Queen Elizabeth, and Lucky Luciano represent the American Indian, the British, and the Mafia. While this symbol reflects a singular expression of group ideals, it also implies a dedication to the achievement of social rather than personal goals. At its highest, the symbol can represent personal distinctiveness as the result of epitomizing the highest ideals, traditions, and talents of a particular group. All right, but in the dark side, it can be infamy as a result of portraying and perpetuating the worst stereotypes of a culture. And boy, don't we have a lot of that these days. All right, let's show you the sky. Let's do the all signs. I'm recording this on April the 20th for my Patreon community, where they get early access ad-free content. If that interests you, go check my description box and come join us there, where you get more intimate contact of up to 3 Zoom meetings a month. And I'm giving away a free course, a Chiron, My Key to Purpose, and a second course for free, Synastry class about how to see how your relationships line up. Are you my person? And those 2 courses are free when you try me out. And they have a market value right now on my websites of $44 in resale. But if you want to come to my Patreon for even a month and then leave, you're going to get to keep those courses as well. It's easy to subscribe for the cheapest commitment of $5 and unsubscribe or choose your tier. All righty, let's get going. Now, before I move us over to the chart, I want to say something interesting. I'm just going to run it at you guys, okay? Joe Biden and Netanyahu. Okay, though there are 2 natal charts. Netanyahu's chart is Sag rising. Joe Biden's chart is Sag rising. Netanyahu has his sun in Taurus. Joe Biden has his moon in Taurus. They have a lot in common, right? But they also have a relationship of a square between their Venus and Mars placements. And I thought about this quite a bit lately. And I thought, this is like a real intense attraction. This is like sexual chemistry, right? But I was kind of intrigued, and I thought it was kind of funny because, with Netanyahu's sun being basically in Taurus, catalyzed right now by that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, but in the 8th house for Netanyahu, and Joe Biden's moon being square Pluto in the real-time sky opposite his solar arc Pluto, and also beleaguered by the eclipse of last October, Joe Biden's falling apart, basically. And I thought this would be entertaining at the very least. So I'm going to read this to you, and I want to make sure I'm still with you guys. I am going to read this to you. And this is like, I want you to get a grip on what I'm saying here. This is a relationship software program that I have in my software for Astro Gold. And it's talking about what happens when a sun and Venus, a Venus and Mars are in a square. Okay, don't forget Mars is the lover, the beauty, the romance, and the good stuff, and Mars is the aggressor energy. So I'm going to read this to you, and you can get a fun little vibe off of it. And we're going to ask ourselves, is this what's really going on in the world? Is this what's really going on between Joe and good old Netanyahu? All right. It just kind of makes me think sometimes that they're star-crossed lovers. Venus is in Joe Biden's chart debilitated in Scorpio in his 12th house. And it's a house of secret backroom deals and negotiations, including bed pleasures. And it is squaring the Mars in the 9th house of Netanyahu. And that's why with Mars up there, lawsuits, going to court, maybe going to jail because of court and legal stuff, or also the fight against the justice system where he tried to disable the justice system in Israel. He's got his Mars there. But his Mars actually in the 9th house is also for religious zealotry and conjunct Pluto for Netanyahu. And we see him kind of as the chosen one. The Chabad rabbi in Brooklyn before he died decreed that Netanyahu was the one who would get the homeland back for the Israelis, get the Temple of Solomon rebuilt, the third temple, and would be the Messiah, the Mashiach, who saves the day and brings back the Savior. Like this, that there is a decree upon the head of Netanyahu by an ancient Brooklyn rabbi who died that Netanyahu was going to fulfill prophecy about Israel. I hope you're hearing that. That exists. Go find out. Go check the History Channel. And this Mars that belongs to Netanyahu in his 12th house is all about ninth house, is how he's going to fulfill the house of God, the ninth house, the biblical prophecy of his role. But he's conjunct Pluto, which is brutality, Mars, Pluto, brutality, ruthlessness, right? You don't see brutality and ruthlessness. And Netanyahu has the armor of the gods, Hephaestus, throwing missiles, iron swords, weapons at people. You know, part of his destiny, midheaven, Netanyahu, the armor of the gods, Hephaestus. So, but it's Venus that belongs to the 12th house of Biden that's turbocharging this Mars that belongs to Netanyahu. And here's what, and actually, Netanyahu has his Saturn on top of the midheaven. They both have a Virgo midheaven, Netanyahu and Biden. And it is Saturn sitting on the midheaven, MC, the career point of Biden, that says that Netanyahu is not good for Biden. His career and reputation, midheaven, is given a hardship by the placement of Netanyahu's Saturn on top of it. The hardship is he's losing the election and he won't be reelected, but I don't think he'll even get to the election, to be honest, for whatever reason. So I'm going to read this to you with a grain of salt and a sense of wry humor. This is what it says when somebody has a Mars square Pluto synastry chart. Okay? And I'm reading it to you for fun, but also to ask you if you think that this is indeed, a kind of thing. Okay, so I'm just queuing up the software in the back end while I look for it. These kind of, if a couple has this relationship of a Mars square Pluto, and I'm doing a synastry relationship for a couple in my Zoom room, I warn them that it will burn hot and fast, and yet it could burn out. This is not the most sustainable romantic connection. Now, hello, I might pause this because I know it's there, but I'm having to scan the software. Mars trine Vesta. Okay, give me a sec. Give me a sec. I'm coming back to you. And now I'm going to read it to you. So we know that Joe Biden is, the one who declares ironclad commitment to the nation of Israel. I can't stand that word, by the way, such a cliche. Why do politicians speak in cliches? Ironclad, 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 shoulder to shoulder, no red line. It's really tiring, actually, as a writer to hear it all the time. But there's two things going on. The United States wants to keep its hegemony in the Middle East and looks at sort of Israel as a colony of the United States, plus a lot of U.S. politicians have been bought into office by Israeli lobbies, and they provide weapons for Israel as a sort of like a colony, right, in the Middle East for their interests and their war bases and their alliances. But also Biden seems to have a thing for Netanyahu until he doesn't. Right now, he's getting tired of Netanyahu. So here's what it says with Mars square Venus between the two of them, the Venus that belongs to Joe and the Mars that belongs to Netanyahu. Double check that I got that right. I'm looking at yes. Yes, that's what it is. 26-degree Scorpio, Venus in the 12th house for Joe Biden, 26-degree Mars for Netanyahu in his 9th house. You can't make this stuff up. This is I'm reading the software. This is a strong combination for a love union because it creates an intense sexual attraction. The durability and nature of the relationship depends on other connections. Between Joe and Netanyahu. Desire is a strong, perhaps too strong at times in this relationship. Joe and Netanyahu are likely to fall in love at first sight, enjoying a passionate union, the type of love affair featured in romance novels. But as time goes on, the flames seem to burn too strongly. Netanyahu begins to feel possessive and perhaps somewhat obsessive, eager to maintain the force of passion. And Joe feels overwhelmed by the passion of let's not say romance, of the relationship and the force of Netanyahu's nature. Does Joe feel overwhelmed? I'd say so. Netanyahu doesn't listen to a damn thing he says. And is in danger of becoming repulsed. So Joe is in danger of becoming repulsed rather than attracted to Netanyahu. Remember he said, hot mic moment, I'm going to have a come to Jesus moment with Netanyahu and all of that. You can see the irritation, but not yet the repulsion that Joe Biden has, but it could go all the way to repulsion. And as a result, the relationship becomes a combat zone. Joe and Netanyahu start to compete rather than cooperate. The positive side of the relationship is a strong attraction felt by both, and they need to temper their desires in this union. They have to remain focused on cooperation and communication to keep appropriate balance in the partnership. They have talked hardly at all on the phone since this damn October 7th happened. And while this combination is often found in a marriage or sexual partner union, it can be encountered in friendships or work associations which involve working on a project. However, it is important in the project of war that both individuals remain focused on the project at hand. Okay, because the sexual flirtation could get out of control. Now, I'm leaving that with you as a thought piece, okay? This is the repulsion, irritation, and frustration and overwhelm that Joe Biden is feeling as the stronger element of Mars dominates the narrative, and Mars' strong willpower, drive, and ambition conjunct Pluto because it's not just that Joe Biden's weakly positioned 12th house, debilitated in Scorpio, Venus, cannot deal with Mars, but she's also squaring Pluto, a Mars-Pluto conjunction in the chart of Netanyahu. It's like Joe can't stand up to the mafia boss. Joe can't stand up to the brutal and ruthless dictator. He's overwhelmed. Just my take on it, just for fun. Let's move into the sky. We're going to talk very briefly about the world events because Mars doesn't just talk to Pluto and doesn't just talk to the strategy goddess of war. He also will come into a conjunction with the North Node and Chiron, where all of those eclipses happened on May 19th and respectively May the 29th. So we've got that coming up as well. And that's going to be a whole video because that's going to reactivate the eclipse of April the 8th and bring more clarity into our world about what this eclipse is for. All right, so I'm going over to you guys. And I'm recording, yes, on April 20th. Don't forget, early access ad-free patron community. Oh my God, guys, I'm going on vacation to Mexico on Monday the 22nd. I so need it. I so need it. I so need it. The El Camino walk is still on. I got maybe one more spot left. If someone wants to join up by the end of the month of April, we'll take one more person in our small intimate group to walk the El Camino through the coastal trail in Portugal to Santiago. And if you're catching the wave of this today or whenever this comes into airing and you think you might be called, you can email me. Go to my website, the information below, to let me know that you might be interested. All right, so let's get going. It's a group event. We're staying in hotels. We're walking the flat route. We're having our luggage cabbed ahead. We're not carrying everything on our back. I can't do that. I'm wearing a red earring and a red earring in honor of Mars. My red dress is packed up for the winter. So here we go. All right, here we are. Ooh, hallelujah. I can tell you I'm going to sleep for a week. So I'm front loading this so you'll get this when I'm on vacation, right? Oh, I'm in the Joe Biden Netanyahu story. Let's go to the transits. All right, here we are. I've got it kind of queued for the Mars having already ingressed into the sign of Aries. And here we are on May 4th. He's already passed Pluto. On May the 3rd, he's exact, as I said. So I don't know if you need me to annotate, but here we go. There's Mars. There's Pluto. Now you'll see the asteroid America is with Pluto here. That's what this triangle is. Just so you know, so is the asteroid Israel. The asteroid Israel will be at 1 degree of Aquarius during the time of this sextile between the god of war in the sign of war, the asteroid Israel, and the asteroid America, who are tracking beside each other. I can't put that asteroid in here. The software doesn't have it. Who are tracking beside each other constantly. We're having Israel and America going through Capricorn before this during the last 3 months. Now they're into the sign of Aquarius. Well, transformation, regeneration, brutality, ruthlessness, dictatorial energy, maybe something good, courage, happening here on the May 4th timeframe, let's say May 1st to the 7th, really, and Israel and America and Pluto. Now, Pluto, death, rebirth, and regeneration, correct? Yeah. Israel happens to be here. The ascendant is at 23 degrees, and the south node is here. They're going through a difficult time, and it has been for the eclipse of October the 14th that triggered this whole darn thing. connected to a south node eclipse on the ascendant of Israel, which is why we're in the situation we are in. In all of my videos, I talk about the history of south node eclipses on the ascendant of Israel, always involving a major conflict or conflagration with Israel and its neighbors. Okay. This is the goddess here of strategy and a knowledge and wisdom, but also victory in war. She's considered to be about war. She is in the sign of Sagittarius, where we have Joe Biden's ascendant. The United States, of a nation of the Sibley charts, U.S. signing a declaration, is in Sag as well. And so is Netanyahu's ascendant in Sag. So there's a like strategy or victory war goddess here for all of these people, USA, Biden, and Netanyahu. This is flowing to Mars at the time of May 4th, and it creates this little triangle called a mini grand trine or a miniature grand trine that is fortunate. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that perhaps there can be some peace treaties in effect to close down the violence, the famine, the suffering, the horrendous challenges that the civilians of Gaza are under. Venus, the goddess of peace in her home kingdom, is talking here to the goddess of committed agreements and vows. And this can look like a peace treaty if we have any luck at all. And in a way, this feels good, at least for the first week of May. At least for Mars is trying to pull off something rather noble in the first week of May. And Venus is supporting him with that trine to this particular asteroid here. Now, in the chart of the nation of Israel, this Venus is in the house of secrets and things that are hidden from view, also known as the house of death. And there is maybe some secretive conversations, backroom deals, and negotiations going on here. Wouldn't that be nice? However, Mars is eventually going to track forward, right? Going forward, and he's going to come into contact here with this North Node and Chiron story, where we had the April 8th perfect conjunction of Chiron to the North Node. Now, on May the 19th is when we see this. I'm not going to forward this. It'll move by little drawings apart. But Mars will be on the North Node at 14 degrees of Aries on May 19th. And then he will be conjunct Chiron at 22 degrees of Aries. These are all close enough, right? Close enough to the 19 degrees of the eclipse of April the 8th. And that eclipse in the sign of war with Chiron has not been seen since 1969. And therefore, we're going back to the events such as Richard Nixon. I believe he announced the invasion of some part of Cambodia or some military invasion in 1969 after he took office after his inauguration in January of 69, even though he was elected as the end the Vietnam War president. 1968-69, when Chiron and the North Node were here in the sign of Aries, we also saw things like massive civil unrest and protests against the Vietnam War, sit-ins on campuses. Yes, things like monks lighting themselves on fire, unfortunately. We also saw things like it really was civil unrest in the United States, massive anti-war protests that were really underway as a result of that energy of Chiron, the noble mentor of the warrior, co-joining with the North Node in eclipse cycle. So yeah, we're back again to this energy, especially that it's really about Chiron and the North Node together in 1969, and they're still there. And there's something that now Mars is chiming in about this, like people don't agree, the public doesn't agree with this war, basically. Now, is there peace in the Middle East in the first week of May? Maybe. Peace in the Middle East. Okay, so maybe, but I'm worried because when Mars hits the North Node, it inflames war. Mars is the god of war, and the North Node on May 19th, extreme energy, inflammation energy around the idea of war. The North Node Rahu inflames or enlarges or amplifies what Mars is capable of when he's in the sign of war. And he will be in a broad square to the goddess Ceres in Capricorn, which is the fourth house of Israel, the home and homeland. Ceres is maybe crops and agriculture, and war square, like Mars, a war in the homeland, war in the fields, in the growing fields of Israel. But it could also be Ceres cuts and scythe, like a scythe, sickle, scythe to harvest stuff, a war harvesting in the homeland of Israel. Well, the nation of Israel was moving through Capricorn for the last 3 months. There were a lot of settler violence episodes in the West Bank, including a massive illegal land grab of more territory in the West Bank. And whether you know it or not, Netanyahu just said they're going to settle Gaza and build their own schools and villages there. They just made that public announcement, just so you know. I mean, there's supposed to be a two-state solution, but yeah, good luck. So I'd say that Mars inflaming with the North Node in the house of open enemies for Israel. Why? Because Israel is a Libra rising, and across the way is a house of your adversaries or the visible enemies. And the North Node is amplifying the visible enemy of the nation of Israel. Now, Iran is a Leo rising over here. Iran is just trying its best to keep its nose out of this thing, if you ask me. But Iran is over here in the part of the sky that is Leo. There will be a lot of intensity as Mars moves through Leo this fall. So Iran is not out of the picture. But I would say that this kind of event that we're saying, the amplification of the open enemies of Israel increasing, it does mean that Mars flows to the ascendant degrees of the nation of Iran. And in Iran's house of open enemies is the asteroid America with Pluto and Israel. So Iran is eyeballing in the month of May, Pluto, death and rebirth, America, death to America, and eyeballing Israel as a gaze across the way puts those placements in the house of open enemies. So we're going to see, in my view, around the 14th of May, give or take a few days on either side, and even more so on May the 29th, as Mars and Chiron co-join, war wounds to do with war. And it looks like an amplification of the open enemies of Israel and perhaps some damage to the property of Israel. So what do you mean by property, the fourth house? Well, the land you illegally own that you don't have rights to since 1967. So there may be land acquisition grabs by the enemy, basically. There may be a attempt to take back land. I'm just guessing. That sounds really awful, doesn't it? That's like a conflagration, which makes me think that that's why whatever's going on that looks like an attempt at a ceasefire or some kind of temporary cessation of hostilities in the first week of May, by the time we get to May 19th to the 29th, it seems to be maybe falling apart. Just what I'm thinking here. Okay? Okay, enough world politics. We're going to do the all signs. Don't forget, listen for your sun sign first, likely the most accurate, then your moon sign, and then you can listen for home and nest and safety and mother and body, and then your sun, purpose, and career, and the rising sign, probably most accurate, all about you. Okay, we're going to get rolling. And don't forget, if you, like me, are an Aries sun and moon or rising, you haven't experienced this before. You have never had Mars in the sign of you working in a sextile with Pluto, and it can be good. It gives you that energy of the non-shadow side. Remember what I was saying to you guys? Oh, shadow side. Well, courage, willpower, drive, ambition, passion, and renewal, regeneration, forging ahead, decisive and courageous, dynamic and purposeful. Yes. So we're going to like this as the Aries folk here, and the Aquarius rising. I'm Aquarius rising, and we're going to like this a lot. But I'm going to talk about how each sign feels about it. So let's get going. We always start with Aries. I'm just a traditionalist. It is a first sign of the Western tropical zodiac. Why not start there, right? To me, that just makes sense. And also, hey guys, I know sometimes, Aries are the least likely to watch a video on YouTube about the astrology of the month, year, or whatever. In my monthly astrology videos for the last 4 years, if you want to go back and look at the view counts of all of those, you'll always find that the laggards, the ones who view the least number of views, are Aries. They don't really want anyone telling them what to do. Really, I swear that's what it is. All right, let's start off. Oh, I don't have you over to share the screen. This makes it easier for my sister to timestamp, but also for you guys to eyeball it and learn something. Okay, here we go. Whew. Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. Right down here. There you are. The eastern horizon line is what you need to look at here, guys, in order to find your sign. That's the Aries glyph. All right, Mars is here. So what we're not talking about for all signs is the North Node Mars conjunction Chiron thing. That's a whole video on its very beautiful own. We're going to talk about the signature of an ongoing whole sign flow back to Pluto, giving each sign this courage, determination, will, and drive connected to Aquarius and Arian themes with a dash of victory with Athena in the sign of Sagittarius. All right, let's roll. That's Athena, Pallas Athena up here. All right, so Aries, sun, moon, and rising. This is a new vibe in your life you're going to experience until 2044. You are on it. You are purposeful, determined, courageous, passionate, willing to regenerate your very own self. But more importantly, when Mars moves into the sign of your sun, moon, or rising, you are the one doing the actions, taking the decisions, and doing. I had a dream last night about literally decision making. It was a lesson in decision making. We can make decisions because Mars cuts away, severs, and ends things. It's deciding because it's cutting one thing away from the other, left or right, yes or no. And so your decisiveness is on fire, and you are able between April 30th and June the 9th to be passionately decisive and boldly action taking. And it opens up corridors of energy of positive success in your 11th house of good spirit. In fact, I'm going to simplify this chart so that your attention is drawn only to what I want you to look at. I am going to do this. Nothing about this chart should be complicated, right? Let's make it crazy ass simple. Okay? Is that simple enough? Probably. I just want to simplify. Saturn, Moon, Neptune, all hanging out in Pisces. Mars is not paying any attention. That's called the aversion. So let's get rid of them too. All right. We know they're there. I know they're there, but I want to make this like a clean line of vision for you guys. Okay. There we go. So during this transit of Mars through your 11th first house, a few big changes may come up. Not only you're decisive around things and taking action, but you've got this Pluto vibe during these 6 weeks that is like, you could attract powerful, wealthy allies, benefactors, helpers into your life. You could powerfully rev up your career income gains in some significant way. These are 11th house matters by the actions and decisions you take strategically. For some of you, some of that strategy comes off of foreigners, foreign lands, and foreign places, or things to do with pilgrimages, higher education, and book publishing. One thing I will say during this whole 6-week transit, well, almost 6 weeks, right, until June the 9th, is that you're going to see that your focus on the home and the home hearth, right, squaring the Vestal flame, and also squaring the goddess of the harvest in the 10th house. You're making some major decisions around career, reputation, and home and nest, and where you want to tend the sacred flame of your home. And so some big action plans and decisions may be underway during this almost 6-week transit to help you find what you really want when it comes to a nest that has a devotional flame, a home that feels like you are around the hearth and you are tending sacred duties there. At the same time, honestly, with Ceres up here, some of you are cutting out parts of your work and career stuff. You're changing it by eliminating something so that you can be more focused on what you are doing in and from your home. Some of you may want to publish a book, write a book, take a trip abroad, move abroad, go apply for university education. These are themes that you'll be addressing for the next 40 years, but particularly now with Athena up here in your 9th house, you're called to these kinds of question marks and answers during the next 9 months. And don't forget, you are Mars. So you're, other than maybe falling or injuring or cutting yourself or having a fever or a rash, which you can do in the first house, for example, or on the moon, your body, you are ambitious, decisive, purposeful and directional, and you have extra power because you're being supported by an elder sibling up here, or somebody that acts like an elder sibling who's wealthy, powerful, and supportive of you. And with asteroid America, you never know from America, but just ignore the asteroid because that was really the mundane chart. All right, Taurus, the broad brushstroke here is that Mars is moving through this part of your chart, last seen in the 1700s, activating something fresh and new for you, in which you are able to cut away, eliminate anything that you do, smoke, drink, or think that undoes you. Your own sabotaging, self-undoing is coming to an end. You're able to quit the vape, quit this, quit that, end things that are that you make your own life harder by. And as this is happening, this Mars is powering up over the next 20 years, every 2 years, an ambitious connection to Pluto in the 10th house. Powerful and wealthy people, or powerful and regenerative changes in your career and reputation path are happening. With Mars here, some of you might repatriate to another country or find that work or money issues are connected financially to career and work from other countries other than your homeland, right? Other than your homeland, especially because you have a Vestal flame in the 3rd house. You might even, some of you over the next 9 months, figure out how to make money from foreign shores and revenue by maybe powering up an online business. Also, what I'm liking about this is that Mars in this part of your chart is able to literally eliminate karmic junk. If you've got family curses, ancestral curses, past life vows of poverty or chastity, Mars, every time he hooks up with Pluto, is so regenerative and cathartic, he can dump it out for you. But for the most part, he is supporting an uplift here, not only to your career, but because he sextiles your house of earnings, where, by the way, Venus and Jupiter will be in May, you're going to find yourself in increase financially. You're going to have a whole sign flow from Mars to that house and those planets that will be there in the month of May. And so it's a kind of a vibe of increasing your wealth and your earnings and being able to power up greater career success. And this transit of Mars is helping you get rid of the blocks to that in essence. The strategic little mini grand trine says, can you be strategic with chunky money, investments, stock investments, money you share with your spouse, or inheritance monies? Can you be strategic with that? Now, because Ceres is here and she can be about endings or cutting, and this is the house of father figures, I'm just going to point out the possibility of an inheritance amount of money coming for some Tauruses from legal matters, court cases, or father figures in a chunk over the course of these almost 6 weeks of the Mars transit, April the 30th to June the 9th. Moving forward. Before we do, I need a chocolate break. I'll be right back. Hang on, guys. Just had to take the fish out of the freezer for dinner tonight and take some chocolate into my body. All right, back to you guys. Woo! Here we go. Resume share. Why isn't it not opening up? There we go. Can I see if you see me? Yeah. All right, Gemini, sun, moon, rising sign. It happens to be that Mars, for the first time in your life, is moving through the sign of Aries, while also flowing back to Pluto, unless you're around in the 1700s because you're a vampire. Okay, so this is amazing. And I would tell you that one of the things that I'm really liking about this, hang on, is that you are going to find this is really good for your career gains. As but Mars can eliminate all of the things that get in the way of you having greater success in your career, especially when it comes to the financial gain from your career. That's your 11th house. But on the other hand, you may cut away friends here too. And if you do, it's really certain, it is time to end those friendships. Those groups of belonging don't work. Those friends aren't yours. But you can also eliminate any situation, any kind of detriment to your greater and more focused, passionate financial gains in your career, especially if your career connects to Pluto in the 9th house, publishing, teaching, foreign shores and travels, wealthy people from foreign shores and travels in the next 6 weeks, April 30th to June the 9th, may be helping you increase your gains. You can be very much like with Mars here, benefiting from Mars people. These are passionate, driven warrior folk, right? Maybe men as Mars moves through this part of your chart. But Mars cuts and ends, and he will bump into the North Node, and there may be a major blowout with an elder sibling or a friend or ally during this time. So watch for that possibility. Be extra judicious and careful with your friendship circles that you don't have a big, massive cut off here going on between the 30th of April and June the 9th. You may be revising and ending and cutting and snipping away some of your goals and dreams and wishes for your life, and you're doing it in alignment with your true dharma. I mean, maybe you want to publish a book, go back to school, and that's where your power is, your regeneration is, and you want to apply for universities, publish a book, move to a different country, and you're really thinking about all of this during the time of this month-long transit. And then we even have Athena to be strategic and victorious regarding the way you approach your marriage partnerships, the way you approach people to do with your clients and audience and marketplace. But certainly Athena sextiling Pluto is a powerful author. Do you want to be a powerful author? Do you have a powerful book you want to put in the world? Are you aligning with that as an ambition or goal? Ninth house matters can mean Athena, lawyer, Pluto, power, courts. This could be a positive outcome in completing some kind of legal contract or agreement or even lawsuit, and it coming into a positive outcome, not just the first week of May, but even flowing throughout the entire journey of Mars through Aries. There's a lot of the decisions and actions that aren't yours to take. I mean, you're at the behest of some person in the 11th house, a sibling, an ally, a benefactor, and they're doing things that impact you, and they impact your bottom line financially, because there is a square to the flame of devotion in the house of resources and savings and the money you can bring into your life to thrive. And so this is a square, and so Mars is being really hard ass about it. Like, what are you going to keep? What are you going to let go of? But somebody's doing that. Someone's pressuring you to make some really powerful decisions about your earning strategies. And you also might find with the square to Ceres, you're also making some very powerful decisions and actions, or being guided by another or directed by another regarding the way you deal with your taxes, your long range money, your inheritances, and money you share with your spouse or partner. Sometimes when Mars is here, he's looking across at your 5th house of lovers and children, and there may be some cutting off or cutting away with those kinds of relationships in a strategic manner, or just a separation from your children or a separation from your lover during the window of this transit of Mars through your 11th house. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign, you've got Mars at the top of the sky. That can be you quit your job. Your job quits you, but you haven't seen Mars up there in the 10th house like this with Pluto in this lifetime. It's the first in a lifetime. Pluto sextile Mars the first week of May, but adding strategy in the house of work. So strategic changes surrounding the money situation and your work environment, or the money situation with shared resources and debts with a significant marriage type partner. And you're making some big changes and taking some bold actions to revise and renew or change those structures. You know, you and your husband or wife have a mortgage or shared debts or credit card debts. Something wants to change here. Now, you can also be passionate, ambitious, driven, and focused, and very successful financially in your work and career space during this transit. And it may generate a greater significant amount of wealth for you with Pluto in your 8th house. Because you're looking at Mars up here in a broad square to both the Vestal flame and Ceres in houses 1 and 7 during the month of this transit, you might find, April 30th to June the 9th, some intensity goes on here. Like, well, come on, like on the 14th, Mars will hit the North Node, and then a little later, on the 19th, he'll hit the North Node, and then on the 29th, he'll hit the Uranus conjunction. The Chiron conjunction. This can be a boss quitting. This can be a healing of a chironic wound about your career path that you've been working on. You're finally cut the last piece of the gangrene off this wound. But also, this is like got a lot of like sudden crazy ass expansion or ending in your career space around this time of, the 19th to 29th. But what I wanted to focus on is that Mars is making or declaring decisions and actions in the 10th house that impact your marriage house, your business partnership house, and also the way you deal with your clients and audience, and impacting your house of your health and wellness, your body, your mind, right? You want to devote yourself to yourself. You want to be a sacred tender of the flame of your wellness. And Mars up there is saying, well, let's cut out of here. Maybe this isn't the right job. Maybe this isn't the right work for you. Maybe this isn't the right marriage for you. So these kinds of things are on your plate, guys, in a way you have not seen in this lifetime, with the Pluto power backing it up. Mars is fueled on Pluto power. Leo, sun, moon, and rising is a 9th house story. You haven't had this in this lifetime. That's not that you haven't had Mars up here, but not in a sextile to Pluto. Now, this is an executive command for sure. Mars is like, I'm taking actions and decisions around foreign travels, foreign journeys, book publishing, third marriage environments, spiritual life and faith. Court and legal matters. He's very lawsuity here. But with Pluto in the 7th house of legal contracts and agreements, you could win the day in court between the dates I gave you. But Mars is also in the house of foreign travel, and you may be taking a powerful journey or planning one, even a move to another country for some of you, if your IC is in the 3rd house, full sign house. And you may be getting ready to replant yourself in another country. And it is flowing with Pluto, your marriage partner or your business partner or your audience or marketplace. They're like down with the whole idea. I kind of like Pluto here for you in the sense that if you're with a significant other that's not right for you, Mars Pluto is going to cut it off. It's going to end. Maybe you move to another country. Maybe you get in touch with a spiritual guide who tells you it's time to end that relationship. Maybe a therapist can help you. Even somebody could help you complete or end a challenging long-term committed love story if that's necessary at this time. There is this energy of what you want to do with strategy and wisdom in your 5th house. There could be a major turning point in a strategic way with a child or with a romantic partner or with the way you're running an entrepreneurial business, especially if it has 9th house features like education or publishing. So I don't want to say anything bad about this, but because I don't know if it's bad, but I mean, seriously, Mars, even though he's trining Athena in the house of children, there could be a very intense discussion or directional shift with one of your children during these, assuming they're not too little. I mean, they can talk to you, especially adult children, in the next 9 weeks. Mars at the same time is in a broad square during this whole transit of April 30th to June the 3rd. He's in a whole square in June the 9th. He's in a whole sign square to Athena and the vessel flame and Ceres, I should say, in the 12-6. Okay, I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to just say what I see. A death of a pet could happen with this during this transit. The pet's off to heaven, being cut, scythed here. So there's a possible loss of a pet, death of a pet. Sorry, life happens. All right, sorry, life happens. It could be sudden during this transit. There also could be a change around a rental situation or a work situation. And that's pretty significant. And also, because Mars is squaring the vessel flame in the 12th house, there may be a very big change of a relationship to your own sense of destiny, to God, to your sacred connection to your soul. This has got a little soul work on this side of it. Okay, let's keep on keeping on. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising, first in a lifetime. Mars is moving through Aries while also forming a sextile to Pluto in your 6th house. Aries is your chunky money house, inheritance monies, money you share with a spouse or a long-term committed partner, money that you can get through investments and bank loans and mortgages. This is Pluto, power and wealth, in the house of debts. Some of you can cut, eliminate, and get rid of a debt. Pay off a mortgage, pay off a credit card, eliminate some kind of loan of some kind during the next 6 weeks. But this is going to happen every bi-yearly, every 2 years for the next, till 2044. If not this time, then maybe next time. Pluto is like the god of death in the house of pets. Mars is the god of ending in the house of death, like cutting and ending. Yes, you too are one of the signs. It could experience the end of a life of a pet. And my daughter's a Virgo rising, and Benji, the family dog who lives with her dad, is literally like 89. No, I mean, he's got to be 110. The dog's got to be 18 years old, right? So that wouldn't surprise me that a pet could pass for a Virgo in this window of time. Now, Pluto here is also power and wealth, and talking to strategic Athena in the house of real estate and property. Some Virgos are going to buy or sell real estate or property, or get some kind of money from the family of origin, a mom and dad figure that they can use for real estate matters. Or perhaps a change of rental situation that's powerful, purposeful, and super duper perfect for you. That's really powerful. So that happens to be a rental change situation anytime, being engineered, discovered, or figured out. April 30th until June the 9th. Because Mars is going to continue, well, first of all, he is definitely cutting things in your house of chunky money. So besides eliminating debt, you may restructure your shared resources with a partner. You may be making some changes to your tax structures and things like that. Now, Mars, with his Pluto power, will square the Vestal flame during the whole sign square during the whole of this transit. And this is like, there may be an end of a friendship. There may be an end to some friendship that you've dedicated and devoted yourself to, and it's like terminal. It's like, it's time to end it. Mars is also squaring Ceres in the 5th house, which can bring an end to a romantic partnership, which can bring an end to a creative project, which can bring an end to a business entrepreneurial endeavor, can bring a difficult circumstance with an existing child, and maybe difficult circumstances around finance and that child, especially if the child is older. And you'll be dealing with those narratives during this transit as well. For the first time, Libra, since the 1700s, Mars moving in his every 2-year transit through your marriage house talks to Pluto. That's a new piece in your 5th house. First of all, Mars cuts, ends, and severs, and he's in the house of marriage, or business partnerships, or client relationships, audience and marketplace. And Mars can cut something here, end it, sever it. It's very intense. You've had a chironic wound since 2019 in the house of committed love. Mars is going to be very intense here. Your partner can be angry, aggressive, and conflictual towards you as well during this April 30th to June 9th transit. But Mars also gets a backup unit with Pluto. Pluto in the house of romantic love is the house of death, and the planet of death and rebirth and regeneration in the house of romantic love. Either you're going to regenerate a challenging relationship, or it may come to an end if it is a romantic relationship. And this is not good for pregnancy. So I wouldn't try to get a baby going under this transit, because it could be a desire by your partner to not have that child. So if you are a female or a male, there could be conflict here around a fertility issue. So pay attention. Mars is flowing to Athena, the goddess of knowledge and strategy and wisdom, in the 3rd house of writing, communicating, traveling, short distance travel, education, short skills based. And Mars is possibly supportive of you or your partner taking a journey, a short distance journey during those weeks, and maybe regenerating the romantic and sexual love between the two of you. All right, that would be an ideal thing, April the 30th through to June the 9th, or some strategic educational opportunity emerging to harness some natural gift and skill or talent you have in a skills-based educational path. Mars is always going to be in a broad square during the whole time to the Athena, to the Vestal flame in the career place, as well as to Ceres in the 4th house. You and your partner, or someone is forcing a decision upon you to quit your home, change your home. Basically, quit your home, change your home. If that's true, if you're going to quit your home, change your home, it may be connected to work, because Mars is also applying to the Vestal flame in the 10th house, where you devote yourself to your work. Change of home and change of work situations are undergoing renovation. You will have Venus Jupiter in the 8th house of chunky money, and you may get some chunky money opportunities here that allow for some kind of purchase of a new home or sale of a home that benefits you during this Mars transit. And the legal agreements and contracts involve matters of the 7th house. Maybe you're just strategically changing your neighborhood where Athena sits over the course of these weeks ahead. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising, Mars is moving for the first time in your life through the sign of Aries, while also being in a sextile to Pluto. You haven't seen this before, and it is about your home, where Pluto sits, your home life, and Mars in the house of debts, also rentals and tenancies. Some of you may engineer a tenancy agreement, a new rental property, rent your own home out over the course of April 30th to June the 9th. Possibly the loss of a pet that you had in your childhood. Mars is squaring Pluto, so a pet from your younger days is going to pass during this window of time. My son is a Scorpio rising, my daughter a Virgo. They both have passing of pet transits. They both have the ancient, like almost 20-year-old dog from their childhood still alive. So I see it in both of these charts. Mars here can be about work, and you are driven, ambitious. He's in the house of his joy. You are going for it. You're working hard. North Node expands the work. You're going to hit like a big energy here. On May 19th, some of you may expand dramatically in your work, authority, and power, but unfortunately, there can be a lot of intensity, and some of you may quit or get fired, so be careful about that. But there's a lot of passion, drive, and hard work going on because your Mars is very excited about performing here, you know? Watch for health challenges when Mars is going through the sixth house as well, especially heat, rashes, inflammation, autoimmune conditions, things like that. You find that your head, don't bump your head, can be a challenge for you. So head injuries as well. Just be careful during this transit. Mars is in the house of sickness in Aries, which rules the head. With Mars going through your natal sixth house, you may find yourself wishing to eliminate debts, and being able to do that because Jupiter in May, at the end of May, moves into the house of inheritances and chunky money. And I'm looking at this Mars maybe being able to help you cut off, eliminate any kind of debts that you have during that 6-week transit. Now, he will be in a flow to strategic Athena and the goddess of possessions and savings and earnings. And so there's a possibility of some workflow, strategic change in your work that empowers up your earnings in a good way. And with the mini trine to Pluto allows for greater wealth and power in and from your home. However, Pluto here, especially with Jupiter moving into the 8th, can signify the beginning of an opportunity to inherit money from a parental figure or family of origin figure. The Vestal flame in the 9th house is being squared by Mars all month long, all through May into early June. And you may have to make some decisions about 9th house matters. And some of those matters can be about churches, religions, weddings, about far off foreign shores and foreign lands, decisions around educational opportunities. And there may be hard decisions, but you'll take bold and powerful action in the wake of those decisions. Because Ceres is trending through your 3rd house, you're also going to find yourself bumping into a need for a decision as Mars squares Ceres in your 3rd house regarding neighbors and neighborhood and sibling relationships. Maybe some major endings there as well, ending your neighborhood, ending situations with your online world or writing projects as well, especially if they connect to your work environment. Because both 9 and 3 are travel houses, some of you may be making some changes to plans around travel connected to situations to do with debt or work environments and making some very powerful decisions to make some changes around travel plans or educational plans during this Mars transit. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, you haven't seen this in your lifetime, so this is what's exciting about it. And you'll be getting this every 2 years for the next 20 years, that Mars will talk to Pluto from your 5th house. Now, Mars is passion and sexual drive, and this is a house of romance. And so for some of you trying to heal that wound to your sexuality and romantic life since 2019, Mars can fire some stuff up here. And it's possible with the goddess of strategy in the 1st house, you may find yourself involved in a new relationship as a result of this transit. But Pluto is in the 3rd house of short distance travel, 3rd house of your local neighborhood and neighbors, and also younger sibling or siblings in general. And Pluto power can be also about some new passionate, ambitious drive connected to a relationship that powers up from those environments of the 3rd house. Now, unfortunately, the 3rd house has become a junk drawer and it can involve dating apps because it's online. So I'd say be bold and brave and strategic. And if you're a single Sag, go on a few dates during this transit, see what this percolates for you in terms of passion. You may have distance from your children, separation from your children, separation from an existing love relationship during this transit. But because Mars is in the house of children, it can also denest your children very intensely, maybe abruptly even. North Node inflames that, and a child moves far away, or you separate from your child by you having a move. Who knows, really? But, Jupiter is opening up corridors of opportunity through to the last week of May that could allow for some changes of home if it involves rental properties. And then also, because Jupiter will go into your 7th house and offer up an ideal mate for a year, at the end of May, add a year. This is not a bad dating time for you when Mars is going through your 5th house, because you could find your person during this transit. So single Sagittarius, go for it. It will be a very passionate relationship with Mars here. Because Mars is going to whole sign square the Vestal flame in your 8th house, you might find yourself having to reorient decisions around creative projects, entrepreneurial businesses, children, and romantic life stories in connection with shared resources, monies that you invest, and other forms of chunky money. And you may be even in a conflict with one of these people, a child, regarding money or money responsibilities. Because Mars is squaring as well, Ceres in the 2nd house, some of you are making some dramatic changes in your possessions and savings. I mean, houses 2 and 8 are money axes for you, and there's some powerful financial change points coming up for you regarding the money you save, the money that you earn, your possessions. Some of you might sell a property because of what Jupiter's up to. And so some of you might be looking at major financial changes through buying or selling, but more likely selling a property, given the way Mars is angling into houses 8 and 2. And especially given that Jupiter's just about to slide at the end of May into your 7th house of contracts and agreements. Alrighty, let me know what happens. If you're thinking of buying or selling a property, there is some evidence that this could work for you during this time. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising, first time in your life, April 30th to June 9th, Mars is in a whole sign relationship sextile to Pluto. Pluto, god of power, wealth, and regeneration in the house of money. He is your earnings, possessions, and savings. You have a death and rebirth archetype here, regeneration. And also Pluto here for the next 20 years can make you quite wealthy. And as Pluto's moving through this part of your sky, it is during April 30th to June the 9th that he's talking with Mars. And Mars is basically, especially the first week of May, like I said in the beginning, Mars is powering up some kind of change and new direction regarding home, land, property, real estate, money and wealth, and foreign places and foreign shores, and strategy and victory. Now, look, 12th house can power revenue from borderless income because you're a PayPal Stripe type like I am, in payment processors, but you can also find some strategic changes are going to happen to you regarding a change of home, connecting to people who are either backroom deals and negotiations like lawyers, or foreign lands and foreign shores entities and people. And you're going to power up a new source of prosperity in the next, 6 weeks or so. When Mars is doing this, I mean, this is often like travel from home or move from home or get far away from home energy as well. Some of you may be traveling from your nest, or you may be moving to a new home. And this is the expat signature. And some of you might be arranging to actually relocate to a foreign country. But this will be a case for you in the next 20 years that you will think about this every 2 years on the regular. What I would also note is that there is a square between Mars and the Vestal flame in the house of long-term committed love and legal contracts, and also to Ceres in the house of you. You've got a sickle or a scythe in your hand, cutting, severing, ending things, but also looking at life through the question mark of what is going to be a thriving harvest for me in this lifetime. Certainly, I'd say Mars in applying square to the marriage house could indicate some hardship in a significant relationship, or just separation from somebody that you want to tend the sacred flame with, or they're tending a flame of devotion toward you. In other words, time away from somebody you're in a relationship with, April 30th to June the 9th. You're trying to heal a wound, right? You're feeling homeless or something since 2019, or you don't feel like you belong where you live. This is trying to be healed. Since 2019, the wound has been active. And I would remind you just right now, I'll do a whole video on this, that Mars North Node May 19th, Mars Chiron May 29th. There's a kind of like a trigger point here for that eclipse of April the 8th that can indeed look like a massive relocation opportunity or significant healing change of home for you as a Capricorn over the course of the year after that April 8th eclipse, but seeing evidence of that between now and June the 9th. All right, Aquarius, yes, I am one of you. We have this transit. First in a lifetime, Mars moving. I'm going to call this video First in a Lifetime. I'll capture the clickbait, but it is first in a lifetime. First in a lifetime, Mars sextiling Pluto from the third house. Mars loves to travel, and trains, planes, and automobiles are his thing. And this is a short distance travel house and just a travel house in general. And he is eyeballing the long distance travel house. And of course, a lot of you know that I will be doing the El Camino during this transit in Portugal through to Spain. And now what I want to say is that Mars moving through the third house is Mars operating as a pair of scissors as well as a passionate directional focus. You may be focused passionately on travel or writing projects, but you may cut away third house matters, distance or conflict with a sibling, especially younger, cutting away social media and platforms of engagement, including websites. You may be severing or cutting away educational plans and opportunities, where you decide you don't want to go to that school or you don't want to enroll in that thing that you wanted to study or learn, or you passionately get enrolled in something. He's either making decisions, yes or no here. Mars through this part of the sky, though, is getting powered up from Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So we are a Pluto. We are Mafia boss Queen Elizabeth. We are the top dog. We are the one carrying this power. And as we hold the power in our being, and we don't suffer fools gladly, we look down and we see Mars beaming at us. And we're like so turbocharged with ambition, assertion, what are those keywords from Renn Butler again? I love that book. Oh my God, I don't have it handy. Yes, I do. Willpower, courage, drive, and passion, determined efforts for renewal and regeneration. Okay, good vibes. A lot of that's happening in the third house, either through travel, short distance education, or skills-based learning through to June the 9th. You got a lot of strategy coming off the 11th house, strategic alignments with people who are allies and benefactors to you. Strategic arrangements with those people are being formed during these 9 months ahead. And you're strategic in the way you want to implement your goals and dreams and wishes. And you may be changing some of them as well, thanks to Mars, but in a positive new direction. Mars is in a long-standing whole sign square to the Vestal flame here during this transit in your 6th house. This looks like either a devotional relationship with a pet, a devotional relationship to your work that you do in the world, like attending that flame of that relationship to your clients, the work you do, a devotional flame to your health. Mars squares the devotional flame. So you're going to make actions and decisions that are pretty harsh, but powerful around health, around pets, around work situations. This is a house of writing. And if you're a writing person, you may passionately get engaged in a new writing project. Mars is squaring Ceres in the 12th house. This is your self-undoing and addictions and self-undoing house for one thing. And you're cutting, ending, and severing. Given that you have the 12-6 axis here, whatever Mars is up to in the 3rd, it's really good for the wine lover's middle way. For me, I'm trying to write that book, but I have to find the middle way myself. The more wine I have, the more wine I want. But you could square that away here, and you could come to a conclusion around some kind of habit, pattern, addiction that no longer serves you. All right. And you could complete that cycle. The Vestal flame in the 9th house. Well, with Venus and Taurus, with Jupiter through most of this transit, yes, for much of this transit, first weeks of May, some of you might be tending a sacred flame of devotion to change your neighborhood, right? Mars wants to make a change of neighborhood here. And you may find a new neighborhood situation emerging, during the April 30th to the 9th of June. Almost to find your devotional neighborhood, a sacred neighborhood that's really good for you at a soul work level, or getting in touch with a better home office environment or something like that. Yeah, that looks good on you for sure. All right, moving into the sign that's last but always the best and never least is Pisces. Pisces, you guys are having this transit for a first in a lifetime, not seen since the 1700s, of Pluto and Mars. Mars moving through from April 30th to June the 9th, your earnings house, your money-making house, your possessions house, your objects of savings and possessions, and your furniture and the things that you own. And this is the I have house, and Mars is cutting. So you're going to divest, right? It's time to sell the sofa, sell the sewing machine, sell the car, sell, get rid of, give away, I don't care what, cutting away some of your possessions. Now he spends money, and you might be a big spender here, and you're spending more money than you usually do, but no worries, because you're getting powered up from Pluto in the 12th house of your own self-undoing and self-sabotage. And so by letting go of a bunch of junk in the trunk of things you don't need and selling or giving away, or maybe doing some kind of spending that you need to do that's good for you, you're going to power up. I mean, come on, you've got Jupiter in the third week of May moving into your fourth house, blessing home and homeland for joy and prosperity over the course of a year. So I'd say that as Mars is moving through your third house, second house, during these almost 6 weeks, he's helping you cut away all that is not conducive to an increase in your success and your finances. North Node conjunction here around May 19th, and then on the 29th with Chiron, healing a financial possessions and savings wound that's been in place since 2019, and taking that April 8th eclipse and saying a big change afoot in the way you earn money. Mars likes to work with strategic Athena, the goddess of victory, in the house of career. You're earning money in new ways through your career. You may have to spend some money to make some money. You might have to divest of some possessions. You might have some goodness of a home situation in June as well, picking up some speed. Maybe some of you will have a change of home. The vessel flame is being broadly, oh, by the way, anything you put in your mouth, right? Addictions, Pluto in the house of self-undoing. Second house, what goes into your mouth. You're changing that, and you're powering through a massive shift around food styles or substances that go in your mouth that are undoing you and you don't need them. Certainly, however, if you make money online through international borderless revenue, you could have a nice glow up during these 6 weeks with Pluto in the 12th house, and that is true every 2 years for the next 20. Next, there is a broad square to the Vestal flame in your 5th house, and this can be indicating a turning point with a child or a romantic partner during these 6 weeks, or an entrepreneurial flame in the an entrepreneurial business flame or a creative project flame. Now, Mars in a square can end that. You may quit that business, quit that project. You may have a conflict with a child, one that you've been excessively devoted to. Mars is squaring Ceres in the 11th house of the elder sibling, large groups of belonging, large friendship networks. There can be a decision being made to voice to this house of speech with a child and a friend or an elder sibling. Kaput. Let's talk about not being in this connection anymore. Let's end this friendship. Ceres is cutting as well. Now, with Ceres up here, you could have a conflict with an elder sibling. And during this transit of April 30th to June the 9th, you also may be looking at how to harvest or reap greater career gains by decisions you're making and spending you're taking during this transit, because Ceres can also represent a harvest or a reaping of something in the greater career gains. And Athena says, be strategic and victorious in these career decisions you're making. Certainly, some of you might just get a new job. If you don't have one or want one, you could get one out of this transit. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. I hope that was useful. We'll be doing a whole video on when Mars co-joins the North Node, on May 19th. And then on the 29th, on the conjunction to Chiron, we're looking at the Sabian symbols, the stars and asteroids involved with that. If that kind of content is interesting in an all signs format for you, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll know when that content comes out later in the merry month of May. I'll have it out before I head to the El Camino. I'm off to Europe on the 24th of May. So we're all recorded in the month of May. Eeks. And then I'm on a Camino walk for 2 weeks in the first 2 weeks of June, kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, I'm going to have to try to front load some content for you, but I might be taking a break, and I'm afraid to take a break. YouTube algorithm is like, he who rides a tiger cannot dismount. Once you're on the algorithm, they got the hook on, like I'm at 4,000 subscribers in the last month right now. Then if you take time off, and I've seen this happen to poor, what's her name? Astrology with Heather, for example, or there was another girl who did astrology. I can't remember her name. And they took breaks of up to a month or two off, and they never got the traction back on their channel. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can get enough stuff front loaded that those 2 weeks I can't possibly record and upload videos on a pilgrimage, right? Like, let's be serious. Oh, thanks for listening. Don't forget, the contest is to win stuff from me in the month of May. So you have to join my newsletter to do that. So go ahead and sign up. Thanks a lot. Take care. Let's see how this goes, this Mars-Pluto story.